So, Scott, go ahead and ask your question again.
Okay. My question was about karma, specifically the karma of my individual life. And I was asking if all of the events and the actions that occur in my life is, in a sense, predetermined by karma. So cause and effect, the karma of my life.
Okay. You've got it kind of backwards in the sense that you're saying that karma already exists and that determines your life, right? That's kind of like Hindu way of thinking of it. But Bhikkhu Buddhadasa talks about it in the sense of karma actually means the word action. All right. And the question that you have is actually concerning the results of action. So the question then becomes is, well, when did the action occur? And the answer to that is always in the past, no matter how far back you go, right? And that the point of it is that our actions from the past create a habit, okay? That in fact it goes in this way, that our thoughts and our feelings create the way that we're going to be speaking, and the way that we talk and think is going to then determine our actions. And our actions then are going to determine our habits, and our habits determine our destiny. And that's basically the question that you're asking. You're not asking about karma, you're asking about destiny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Well, the destiny then can be of two kinds. There can be the kind that is ignorant, which is the way that it is with almost all people, and then it can be a destiny that is based on wisdom, which means you've got some choice in it. And that ordinary people don't know that they have a choice, that in fact there's a whole lot of talking, mostly from religions, Hindu, Islam, Christianity, and probably 100 others, all begin to talk about things that happened a long time ago, like original sin. That in fact, if you think about it, the way that the Christians talk, the original sin means that you were broken from the very beginning. That everybody was broken right from the very beginning. There was the original sin, and now you're born broken. And that's basically what you've got the eye on is that you're broken from birth. And that some of the brokenness that you had in the past also affects that brokenness at birth. And the point is that if we begin to see our actions, we will have some control over them. And the way that we can begin to control our actions is going all the way back to looking at our thoughts, looking at our feelings, watching our speech, and that will then help us be able to control our actions, which will then reform the habits and give yourself a new destiny. Your choice. Now, there's a lot of examples of that. One of them is very clear, is the one, I think this is Shakespearean, he who lives by the sword dies by the sword. You've heard that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what that actually means is that a guy in his teens and 20s can get really good at being a swordsman. But if he keeps carrying that sword and using that sword into his 50s and 60s, there's going to be some young buck that's going to come by and cut him in half. Someday that swordsman has to put down that sword, or somebody's going to use it, or another one on him. The same thing with gunslingers in the West. The same thing happens with title fighters. Look at the example of what happened with Muhammad Ali. He won the world title. It was taken away from him because he wouldn't go to war. Funny thing, the guy's a fighter and he wouldn't go fight for the U.S. Army, so they put him in prison, took his title away. He came back and got his title again. Then the second time, I think it was George Floyd who took it away from him. And then he got the title again. But by then he had already been knocked himself crazy with all the head blows that he's got. And now he's got, if he's still alive, I don't know if he's still alive or not, but in his later years, he was completely crippled.
Yeah, CT. Yeah.
Okay. So that's a clear example of he who lives by the boxing gloves gets clobbered.
Right. Even if you're the best. Yeah.
Even if you're the very best, you're still going to get clobbered if you keep going. Sometime or another, we got to hang up the gloves, put down the sword, and we have a choice about that if we know we have a choice. That, in fact, there's an article I think it's in The Lion's War by Bhikkhu Buddhadasa. It's actually on our website. And the title of it is Karma, the choice is yours. And yet all of the religions, as I was saying, teach that once you've gone into it, you've got a destiny now, and you can't change your destiny. There's also a bunch of stories about that. One of them is an interesting Islamic story, to where the guy had a dream that he was going to die. And then he was in the marketplace and he saw death riding on a horse. And he says, I'm getting out of here. And so he got on his horse and he rode as fast and as hard as he could for a long, long, long time. And he finally, the horse was exhausted. He was exhausted. He saw a tree and he went and sat under that tree. And guess what? Beth came around from the back of the tree and says, I saw you in town today, and I was wondering how you were going to get here, because your destiny was to get killed under this tree. Okay, so that story is saying that, in fact, we don't have any choice, that if we are destined to die, we're going to die no matter what. Now, that's actually very religious. It's very stupid. It's very Hindu. It's very Islamic, and it's very, very Christian. That, in fact, when I was a child I moved with my family, moved me into Charlotte, North Carolina. And that's when I came across words like providence. Why? Because there was Providence Road. They named all the roads in Charlotte, North Carolina after things that don't exist. Okay? There was a Destiny Road. There was a Providence Road. All of this stuff is trying to teach people that they don't really have a choice. And the fact is that you do have a choice. One of the ways that we can look at that choice is that if you can see that, let us say, the boxing or the sword is negative karma, or that's actually stated as is that dark action gives dark results. But if you start having bright action and bright action and bright action and bright action, it's actually going to overpower the old dark action that you had before. It's not a matter of repenting in the sense of I'm sorry. The matter is repenting in the sense, and what the word actually means is to turn around. and go off in the other direction. So let's say that you're going down the road in the wrong way and you're headed straight for a cliff. And then you see that cliff in front of you. If you turn around and go back in the other direction, you're unlikely to fall off that cliff. But you were destined to fall off that cliff in your own stupidity and ignorance because you were heading right for it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So this is the whole story then, and I've given you several different examples of this with the guy under the tree, boxing gloves, swords. It's all the same, is that whatever habits we have, those will determine our destiny because we still do the same thing habitually.
Right.
Like heading for a cliff, unless we reform, unless we repent.
Right.
And the 60-year-old who just got cut but didn't get killed with the sword, he recognizes he's got to put it down. He hangs that katana up on the wall. He's Japanese. And he survives because he repented, he reformed. He didn't get killed with the sword because he put it away. He changed his behavior. He repented. So this is the way that we look at it. Now we can repent and reform from all of our bad actions through anapanasati, through the teachings of the Buddha. Why? Because as I said before, that all of our bad habits that give us a destiny are determined by our actions. And our actions will start to change if we change the way that we talk and think. So changing the
Sometimes
way that we think will change our destiny. Go ahead.
I come into this right view, and everything feels like I'm on top of it. Like I got control over it. Like everything makes sense. My experience is I'm just just breathing, seeing, feeling, hearing, and it's a relief. Now, at some point, I fall out of it, and I don't know quite when, and then I don't know really what went wrong, and then all of a sudden I'm in a big pile of dukkha again.
Yes, in
Yeah.
fact, have you heard about people when they're lost in the woods, they go around in circles?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's use that cliff example. Let's say that cliff that you were about to run off actually was in a place that was wooded. It wasn't a desert that had a cliff. It was a wooded place.
Okay.
And that there was a creek or a river at the bottom of that cliff, but it was very dangerous to go off that cliff. Now, let's say that you saw that cliff and you turned around and went in the other direction. But if you get lost again, you'll probably be going around in circles, and guess what? You're going to go right back over that cliff again.
Yeah.
Because you're not watching. You don't know where you are. You're lost. This is why anapanasati is so valuable in the sense that you got to keep repeating it. So that story or the analogy is actually we can apply that to that we can have good wholesome thoughts and start to build the habit, and then something will happen and we'll get lost again. We'll go back into our old habits again. And the question is, can you wake up from that and stop being lost? Because if you're lost, you'll go start around in circles and you'll go right back into your destiny again. You go right back into the old habits that you had. Why? Because you go back into the old actions. Why is that? Because you go off into the old speech patterns and the old thought patterns and the old feelings. So we have to keep practicing. It's very much, here's an example. This is an example that's happened to me specifically. I used to be a pianist. I used to be able to play. I had a pretty decent, I had some Chopin and I had some popular tunes. I had Beethoven. Guess what? I can't play one of those pieces anymore. Why? Because I stopped practicing. So I started off as a child and not a musician. I practiced and I trained for years and became a musician. But along came Bhikkhu Buddhadasa in Thailand and the Dhamma, and I broke the guitar in India and haven't hardly seen a piano since then. They don't have pianos at Watts. They don't have pianos in Thai homes. They had pianos in most American homes in the 1950s. But not being around a piano, I have not played the piano. I remember sitting down at the piano in the 1980s when I was in the United States, and I had already lost it then. Within 20 years, I had lost it. And so, let us say 10 years ago or so, we bought an electric piano for Kitty, and I was as lost on it as she was. Because then it had been 50 years since I'd played the piano, not 50, but 40. So if piano does that, how about your thinking process? That if you don't continue to practice Anapanasati, it's actually going to go back to the old childhood ways of doing things.
Yeah, because I'll have success in the practice, and then after the success, I tend to think, oh, okay,
I got it now.
Don't need to.
And then you don't practice anymore, and then you go back and get lost again, start going in circles again, and then the old destiny comes back.
Yeah.
But if you keep practicing, having a new destiny, then you can create a new destiny. That in fact, that's a very good point that you're making, because I don't know of any students who don't fall into that trap. That they practice Anapanasati, get great value out of it, and say, wow, this stuff is really, really good. I am so glad that I've been practicing, but now that I've got it, I don't have to practice anymore. And so they quit practice. I've done that too. And when we quit practice, slowly, slowly, the old habits come back again. And then we wake up to recognize, wait a minute, all those good new habits that I had been practicing have gone. So there's another way of talking about it. You've seen at the park they have swings. Sometimes they have good swings that are hung by a tree, and there's a river or a pond out there, and you swing way out and then jump, turn loose of the rope to get into the water. Okay, well, let's go back to the swing that's in the park. And the man's daughter says, I want you to push me, Daddy. And so when she sits down in that swing, gravity's got it. It's down. It's not going back and forth. And so when Daddy starts to push, it's hard to push, especially if he's got a big daughter. It's hard to get that swing started. But if Daddy keeps pushing it, and every time it comes back, he pushes again, pretty soon he can get that swing going, right? Which is exactly what we're talking about with Anapanasati. We can get that swing going. We can start changing it from being dead in the water or dead still into having a life that really swings. But if Daddy takes a hike, if he goes and sits down to watch his daughter swing, guess what's going to happen? The swing is going to get slower and slower and closer, and it's going to stop again. And then the daughter says, Daddy, come push me again. And when the daddy goes back to push, He says, wait a minute, this is hard work. I thought originally when I stopped pushing you, you were going just fine. Swinging, pushing you along was really easy. But now it's going to take work again. It's going to take more right effort to get it going again. But once you get it going, then the effort becomes easier and easier. But it's going to only stay easy if you keep pushing. You gotta keep that swing going. You gotta keep bringing back to intentionally having those happy, wholesome thoughts. Because if we stop watching the mind, it's going to start spinning off into the direction that it was before we ever started practicing again, and you can lose it all. That nothing is permanent. Everything is temporary. And it'll go back to being dead still again, broken, back to the destiny. But you can start pushing again. You can start changing those thoughts. You can start changing the way you feel. You can start changing your speech pattern. You can start changing your actions again. And that's going to start changing those habits, which is eventually then going to change the destiny. It's a really simple kind of concept, but it's kind of hard to do. It's kind of like threading a needle. Everybody knows exactly how to thread a needle, but not a lot of people can actually do it. But those who practice threading those needles, like seamstresses, they can do it in a flash. They know exactly how to do it. They're practiced, they're trained, and so they can thread that needle easy enough. But if that seamstress goes 10 years without, or even 5 years, without threading any needles, then the next time she tries to thread a needle, it's going to be hard. So this is why it's such a good idea, but it goes against the grain because we get that point of, oh, I've got it. And you know something? Me spending time with students on the internet keeps me threading that needle. This is one of the values of teaching the Dhammas, because if you're out there teaching the Dhamma, teaching people how to thread those needles, you can still do it.
Can you help me with the grief of the unwholesome thoughts? I had it and I lost it, and now I'm damned. Kind of like it's like I had it and I'm lost it,
And then the thought comes, never mind, start again. That's why you called me.
That's why, yeah.
Yeah, never mind, start again, Scott. You did it once, you can do it again. In fact, because you've got some old skills that are rusty, you can dust them off, polish them up, and get those skills back again. Easy. But you got to practice. Just like if I had a piano, if a brand new piano showed up right here, if I started to practice, I could play Chopin again. Probably learn it pretty fast, faster than it took me the first time. Just like Muhammad Ali, he spent time in prison. But when he went back to boxing, he didn't have to start all over again. Yeah, he was really rusty, he couldn't do it. But what did he do? He started training. He started practicing again. The next thing you know, he's got the world title again. So get off of your grief, get off your duff, get off of your poor me, and say, I did it. I can do it again. Let me start looking at these thoughts. And
Okay.
one of the thoughts to look at is that thought of, oh, poor me, I lost it. And start having the thought of, hey, I can get it back again easy enough.
Okay, yeah. This is good. Makes sense. Now I was wondering if you could walk me through. Okay, here I am practicing. Okay. Never mind, start again, right view. Now what to do about, like, let's say there's like a tension. There's that
Aha,
like
I see that tension. Aha, I see that. Well, I'm really glad I can see that tension. Now I can take a deep breath and just relax that tension away. But if you start to hate that tension, it's going to get worse. I don't like tension. Makes it worse. But with that newfound attitude, that skill of tension, I can handle tension. If I can see it, I can do something about it. And what happens with you is you see it and then you feel bad. You don't do anything about it. Oh, poor me, I'm so tense and uptight. And I used to be really carefree. Oh, poor me. And so if you can see yourself getting yourself into a pity party and say, hot dog, I see that. I see that I got myself into a pity party because I saw the tension and I didn't do anything about the tension, but I'm surely going to do something about this pity party I'm having about the tension. I can come out of that pity party and I can come out of that tension and everything's going to be hunky-dory again. You can do this. You know you can. You just want to have a pout.
If I'm doing meditation, uh doesn't matter if my eyes are open or closed.
Nope, doesn't matter.
If my eyes are
Because you're
open,
not using your eyes anyway. You're looking at what's in your mind. And that doesn't require your eyes opened or closed.
okay, yeah. So if my eyes are open, um, like, should I
In
not
fact,
be
if you got your eyes
focused?
closed, you might walk into a tree.
Yeah. Like, is it a problem to focus on like something? Like should I like soften my gaze, so to speak?
Like I said, it really doesn't matter.
Really?
Right. What matters is, can you see that you're having an unwholesome thought and change it?
Okay.
Soften the thoughts.
Because I'll have like thoughts. It's kind of weird. I'll be like, oh, should I look at you? Should I look at me in the little corner, or should I look at the whole room? And then I'll just kind of like jump around, and then I'll look at myself, and then okay, I'll think about me. Oh, then I'll start thinking, oh, what do I look like right now? What is, how am I being perceived? And then that's like more
But it's not
thoughts.
you, it's just an image. You don't have
Right.
to own that image. You can see this image and that image. It's just an image. We have been taught to look in a mirror and say, that's me.
Right.
And it's not. At best, it's a backwards kind of thing. It's not you at all. It's just an image. And you really don't know what you look like. Here's an interesting example of that.
That's true.
Okay. Can a camera that can take pictures of all kinds of things, can the camera take a picture of itself?
No.
No. Can a camera take a picture of an image of itself in a mirror? Yes, but that's not the camera. It's a backward image of the camera, so a camera cannot take a photo of itself. But the camera can be handy for taking pictures of all kinds of things. And so use your eyes wisely. And don't look at images of yourself and say, that's me. You can look at that image and say, I don't have to look at that image.
This is really good. This is like, it's really clicking for me right now. That's a unwholesome thought I tend to do, is look at images and think it's me. Also, I'm somewhat addicted to social media. See who like, what's the response? Like, who liked my post, you know?
Mm-hmm.
What do people think about me? Oh, like, I'm not getting enough likes, or like, people must hate me, or like, just thinking about all this bullshit.
That's the problem with social media. People have
Yeah,
ruined their lives with social media.
yeah,
A really good example would have been that Elon Musk would have been better off if he had not bought Twitter. He would have been much better off. He's
yeah,
greatly hated because he bought Twitter and screwed that up. Another one was Donald Trump would have been a whole lot better off if he hadn't been on social media.
yeah. But like, the deeper problem, like, let's say there's no social media, it's like the same unwholesome thought, like, oh, that that person, they gave me a weird look, like, what am I
But he
like,
didn't give
did I do?
you he didn't give you a weird look. He just gave a weird look, and you're the one who called it a weird look.
Yeah,
So you made two mistakes. One is that you saw him looking, you called it weird, and then you thought it was you he was looking at.
yeah. Yeah. So you see like some sort of facial expression, and then you feel like that sense of,
No, you can say, aha, I see that.
oh yeah, okay.
This is the time to practice because your old habit is to say weird. Your old habit is to say he's looking weird at me. That's just an old habit. You've been
Yeah,
doing that since you were a child.
yeah,
Yeah. So can you see that and say, aha, I see that I'm saying that he's weird, and I see that I see that I say that he's looking at me, or he doesn't even know me. The real Scott inside is hard to find. You can't even find him. How do you expect that guy with a weird looking can see your real you? He can't do it. All he's seeing is what he thinks of you, and that's his thought. So if he's having a whole bunch of unwholesome thoughts, he's just going to see you and then start having more unwholesome thoughts. And it really doesn't have anything to do with you. That's his destiny. So don't buy his destiny. Don't buy yours. So you can have the thoughts of, hot dog, I can handle his weird looks.
or if
Maybe change the
someone's
word from weird looks to funny looks, and then you can laugh. Ha ha. He's got a funny look. He looks funny.
What about gossip? Like if someone tells you about gossip about you, like they heard that, like people are talking, like words, you have like like I have sort of like a reputation, in a sense, like a reputation. Oh, Scott's the guy that always gets angry, or like he's like this is what people
But you're
expect.
projecting that onto other people. You're putting in your head that they have you in their head. So don't give other people any mind at all. You pay attention to your own mind. You pay attention to your own anger rather than projecting your anger on them to project back at you. That's double projection. Remember that the Buddha said in Sutta number 22, along in the same paragraph that he says is that I only teach one thing, dukkha dukkha nirodha. He says that when anyone reviles him, or whenever, anytime anyone reveres him, on that account there is no elation or dejection of heart. That people can revile him and it doesn't bother him. They can praise him, doesn't bother him. Why? Because basically he's been there and done that. So
What
when you
about
get praised, remember that you were praised when you were a teenager. Why can't you get over that? You've already been praised. Praise be unto Scott. And
so
then when you were
what
young,
about
you were also reviled, and people put you down and talked to you down, and you were able to survive that back then, so you can survive it now. You've been
what
there, done that. You've had both sides of it. You've been praised and you've been reviled,
yeah.
and you survived. So when you have thoughts about being praised and reviled, you can say to yourself, I can handle that. Nothing to it. Been there, done that. And when they're praising or reviling, they're not praising or reviling you, they're praising and reviling whatever is inside their own head.
What about if you get reviled for something that kind of hits you harder because it's
Don't stand there and be a target to let it hit you. Stand out
something
of the way.
that is like something that you're trying to work on, or like something that, yeah.
Then you can say, thank you. I'm glad you see that. I see it too.
Okay.
Stop making enemies of those people out there. Stop making enemies of yourself. Whatever happens is absolutely okay, whether you're praised for it or reviled for it. And in fact, when I was a monk in the United States, I could see that very, very clearly. I'd say something, and the Buddhists would say, yay, he got those Christians. And the Christians would say, I'm going to get you. You're crazy, right? So they were just coming out of their own perspective, and neither one of them were able to see me clearly. They were only seeing what they believed. So stop making yourself a target for people out there. Recognize that they don't see you at all. So why should you buy into their crap?
Yeah, the irony is most of the time it's not people out there. It's literally making myself a target of my own mind. Of
Exactly,
my own.
exactly. So that's what I'm getting at.
Nobody else is here right now, but I'm still making myself yeah. Or I'm not doing that right now. but I'm seeing the pattern, the habit of it in retrospect.
So when you see that in the present moment, you can say, aha, I see that old habit. I'm glad I can see it, because if I see it, I have a choice about it. I can be free from it. So see those thoughts.
Yeah, because I feel good right now. This is great. Like, I feel like $1,000,000. Yeah.
Great. So go practice feeling like $1,000,000. You know what $1,000,000 feels like? It's old, green, and wrinkled.
Yeah. I heard someone give the example. Okay, let's say you won $1 billion, but the catch is you only have 1 day left to live with $1 billion. Would you take it? And people say no, heck no. So your life is worth $1 billion, or like just being alive is worth more than $1 billion.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't take it if it meant you're gonna die in a day.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that.
Or how about $10 billion for 10 days?
Yeah, still not.
No.
Still no. Yeah, I mean that's the answer. That like happiness can never come from something, like getting something.
Mm-mm.
It's, but
It's only your choice.
you forget, you delude yourself into thinking I need that thing now. Ooh, shiny thing, or ooh, I
I
want
need
that.
their praise. I need
And
them
then
to like me.
suddenly your happiness that was already there is gone because now you want something else. Yeah, you want some praise, you want. Yeah. This is so, I mean, I know this sounds so obvious, but like to like actually feel it, you know what I mean? Like, but I mean, of course, everyone knows, oh yeah, desire, it creates dukkha, but to see it in your mind, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But that's what you're helping me do. So thank you. Thank you. Like, now
Excellent.
I'm just talking out loud, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, why don't we finish now and you go continue to talk out loud to yourself? You keep praising yourself. You're already okay.
Yeah.
You don't need anybody else to tell you you're okay. They don't even have the language to say that. They don't have the wisdom to see how good you are, but you do. You really want to be alive. You like it.
But now, like, I feel like just the smallest amount of fear, like, oh, when Papa Dhammarato ends the call, you know, because it's so easy when you're walking me through it. You know what I mean?
Well, you can walk yourself through it. You've done that before.
I have, yeah.
Yeah, you've done it before, so you can remember, oh, I've done this before. This is not the first time.
Yeah, okay, I will.
Yeah.
I'll keep doing it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you keep practicing. You keep coming back to the Skype groups. You
I
keep
will.
doing it. You keep
Yeah.
having good friends.
Yeah. I think
It'll
calling
help
you,
you to remember.
I hope you don't mind me calling you every week, about a week or so.
No,
That's
I
okay
don't
with you?
mind. Yeah,
I don't want to call you too many times, but like this is really helping me. Like, yeah.
excellent.
Yeah.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
we'll see you later.
All right. Thank you. All right. Bye bye.